Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Reason We Learn, day after Election Day. If anybody shows up here, can you please let me know in the chat if you can hear me? Because I'm having some microphone issues, which is really bizarre. Can you guys hear me? Just let me know that you can hear me, okay? Can hear me because I'm having some microphone issues, which is really bizarre. Can you guys hear me? Just let me know that you can hear me, okay? Now I'm hearing an echo. Can you guys hear me? All right. So, welcome to The Reason We Learn. I'm assuming that you can hear me. This is a channel where we talk about all things related to education. And last night was a big night for people concerned with education. If you were paying attention to the election results, as I assume most of you were, we have some things to talk about. Before we get started with that, I would like to ask you to please consider liking this video, commenting this video, sharing this live stream so other people can join in. What I'm going to be talking about today is what happened. Are you still hearing an echo? Oh, it's gone. I think I figured it out. I figured out how to cancel it. Thank you very much. So what I want to talk about today is what happened last night. So we have a little bit of celebrating to do. Okay. I want to give credit where credit is due. Yes, people woke up. Lots of people woke up. I want to talk about that. So I want to talk about like the good, the bad, and the ugly, I guess. And I know if Gabs were here, she would say, "Take another white pill, Deb. Keep going." And I'm not about to try to black pill anybody today. It's a good, happy day. I just want to talk about positive things, positive direction. Not going to be negative. I do have some thoughts, some suggestions, some strategic ideas because I do think this should put some wind in our sails. It's not a time obviously to like rest on our laurels, but we can get a moment. We get a day to do it. So that's kind of what I want to talk about with you guys. What happened? I hope you're what happened. So last night, the obvious good news is that the parents of Virginia won Virginia. I give them full credit. Although I have to say, I'm sure there were also people who may or may not be parents, but who were also voting against things that were infringing on their liberties. They don't like going to trainings at work about diversity, equity, and inclusion all the time. My husband just had one. It was like a diverse DEI moment they now have. Every week they have DEI moment where they have to attend. Well, I'm sorry, they don't have to attend. It's optional, but it's kind of like flair. Remember the movie Office Space? You have to have your requisite number of pieces of flair, and having just enough is not enough. You're supposed to have more. Well, it's kind of like that. If you don't show up periodically, they're going to take notice. And today's lesson was about hair racism, hair discrimination. Apparently, braids. They were supposed to learn about the history of hair braiding and why we shouldn't discriminate against people because of their hair, and it would be racist to do so. So, that's going on. And I would like to believe that there are a fair number of adults who go through those things on a daily basis now who are sick of it. They're just sick of it. And it's not even that they're not Republicans per se. They're just like, can we please just get back to work and get back to living and get back to doing and being Americans and whatever it is we do? And can we stick to that sort of thing? So I would believe that's in there too. And I think the good news about that is that it's not just parents who are waking up, it's also people in general who realize that the stuff our kids are getting in their school, in their classrooms, is coming into the workplace and it is getting in the way. And so there's some synergy there. The good news about that is I think the parents now have more allies in the non-parent world or in the world post-parenting, grandparent age, people like that, retired people. I think people are starting to realize that this is not confined to schools, but that culture does start in the schools and we all have a stake in it. You know how we're always being told like we all have a vested interest in our kids in the education of the children of the population. Yes, we do, don't we? And we don't want them to not know how to do math because bridges will start falling down. So I think people are catching on to that. So I have to give specific credit to people like Moms for Liberty, Parents Defending Ed, No Left Turn in Education, Gabs Clark, Carlin Bursenko, Chris Rufo, James Lindsay. My goodness, I could go on and on. There's so many people to praise and thank and admire for what went into the victory in Virginia, but not just Virginia, you guys. I don't want to have this day pass without us noticing New Jersey. That is huge. First of all, I would argue that New Jersey has some curriculum issues that you're so sweet. Thank you. Myself. I'd love to believe I played a role, but I don't know about that. I've tried. I've tried to help them best I could. Um, and all of you, of course, all of you here, everybody who, just amplified, whether it was my message or anybody else's message that was, speaking these better ideas. Thank you to all of you, because you all should pat yourselves on the back for getting. Yeah, I know that many of you share these videos with friends. You share this information with, everybody who has kids, and you're helping to get the word out. It's kind of like modern day pamphleteering, what our founders did to get the word out about liberty then. So this is really good. But I also I want to so where was I? Okay, well, all the people to give credit to, and I think that's really important. Um I think what's important to note though is that we need to avoid a potential schism moving forward between people who are simply fighting bad ideas like me, who are kind of like, let's take back parental rights and put parents in the driver's seat of their children's lives, and that includes their medical decisions, that include all their health care, that includes their education, that includes like all of it. It's not just what's happening in the public school. So there's kind of like my sort of wing of that movement, and then there's we need to save public schools. And I think I've been very upfront with you guys in my audience that my mission is not to save public schools. Now, that does not mean I'm out to get them and destroy them. I'm an abolitionist, but here's what that means. I'm an abolitionist of the government compulsion component of it. I don't think that you guys as parents should be forced by the government to put your children in a specific school building in a specific area based on decisions they've made for you, based on where you live, your zip code, etc., and then forced to submit to that curriculum and forced to, and have the dollars taken from you for that purpose, and there's no way to make a change in that. But that's not the same thing as saying I'm for school choice, because it still has school as the paradigm. That school is sort of where we start, and we're in its orbit. We're in the orbit of school, public education, whatever. That's not my mission. So I'm not really looking for you to have other public choices. I'm not really looking for you to even be able to get a voucher from the government to go to one of its approved private choices, because that still puts the government in the driver's seat of saying, we approve of this choice. We don't approve of this choice. You may use a voucher here. You may not use a voucher there. I don't really want to do. Yes, Scott Pressler. There's so many people to thank. But I don't really want to have parents subjugated anymore at all. Period. Period. That doesn't negate the possibility of a public option at some point. If a town, a local community says we want to have a publicly funded school because we have enough people in this community who are not going to really have another option. We don't have enough private schools, or we really can't, we all have to work. We can't homeschool, whatever the issue is. I think having a public option is still a viable option, but it should be an option, both from the whether you go there and put your kids there, and paying. So more like the post office, right? And less like what it is now. And the post office isn't so great. But I'm just saying, if you think there's a need for public option, it should still be decided very locally. I would like to do away with the federal Department of Education, because I think this top-down pressure of billions of dollars creates all kinds of perverse incentives that messes up the whole thing and takes the power away from parents. And takes a lot of money out of your pocket and out of the economy, which might actually mean you have to work, you have to have a two-income family, because the taxes needed to pay for all of that top-down money change what we need to do to work to pay the taxes. And we're spending a third of our lives paying taxes. So I'm thinking very big picture. So what you're going to get from me and this channel is you're going to get support to take back not schools, but take back parenting. Take back you being in charge. And I really would like to keep putting the pressure on there. Terry McAuliffe tried to say parental rights is a racist dog whistle. Really? then how come the largest cohort of brand new homeschoolers are Black? How come the largest single demographic group homeschooling now, as of the past year, are Black Americans? Pretty sure they're exercising their parental rights to make a choice. And they are doing it. They are homeschooling. So that is a myth that just needs to go away. The other myth is that on the other side is that, while I believe parents absolutely should have 100% say in what their kids are being taught every day, the tragic fact of the matter is that in public schools, in government run schools, they don't. So I'm not saying you shouldn't, like Terry McAuliffe said. I'm not saying you shouldn't, like people like Randy Weingarten say. I'm saying you simply, as a matter of law, don't. And the reason is it's presumed it was democratically decided. And the reason it's presumed that is that you elected your governor, as happened yesterday in Virginia. You elected a governor. The governor then has a say in who's on the state board of education to a point, because the legislature also has a say depending on how your state does it. And also to a certain degree, other groups within the state influence who gets to sit on the board of education. And then those people make their choices as far as curriculum and what's going to be the state standards. They also make the decision about what are the state standards for credentialing of teachers to be teaching at all. They make the decisions on what the teachers have to know and what the state universities are going to teach and how they get their funding. So you elect your governor. It's very, very important. But there are all these other unelected bureaucrats that they choose. You're now like at least a step away from the actual the electoral process of democratically deciding things. And then those people make a bunch more choices, and people make a bunch more choices. And by the time you get down to the classroom, you're so many places removed from what you voted for that for people to say, it's democratically decided what goes on in the classroom is a bit ridiculous, isn't it? And the other reason is that the Department of Education is pouring all that money and the state's going, ARPA money, CARES Act money, billions of dollars, jobs, payback for my political friends and all the things. We now have taxpayer dollars from all over the country. It didn't even have to come from our constituents. Our constituents won't be mad at us. In fact, they'll be mad at us if we don't take the federal money that came from states like, New York and California that have more people and more money to pour it into the big pot. So how dare you walk away from the federal money? Now you got to have ways to spend it. And the federal government goes, we want you to spend it on CRT. No, we want you to spend it on SEL. We want you to spend it on whatever the heck they want you to spend it on. We don't make a national curriculum. You don't have to. But good luck telling your local constituents that you're saying, no, thanks, we're not taking $100 billion or whatever it is. Yeah, good luck with that. Good luck. Because of course, then the narrative is for the children, but of course it's not for the children. It's for the new, 17 vice principals and, other administrators and DEI coordinators and whatever's you're going to get. The IEPs won't be better handled, but, you'll have all kinds of new staff, and the union will be happy because you've created all kinds of new jobs that have to be beholden to the union to keep their jobs, and so on and so on and so on and so on. Lots of political payback. So that's what I want to abolish. I want to abolish the layers between you and the curriculum, so that if you have a public option someday in your city or your town, it really is just one or two steps removed from you. And if you don't like it, you're not a prisoner of it. You can say, well, I opted in the last few years. It was pretty good, but it's kind of fallen off because I don't like the way the mayor, the governor, whoever's dealing with this, and I don't like it. So we're going to go somewhere else, and they're going to have to feel the pressure of losing students because they're failing us. And I have that option because since the dollars are out in the economy, other people are cropping up with other kinds of schools and educational opportunities. So that's what I'm for. I don't saving public school or saving public education as it's currently set up and constituted is not my project. It's just not my project. So I look at last night as the first step in what's going to be a long process of figuring out for all of us as a culture where we stand on this. So I'm just being very honest with my audience and letting you know that I admire and I'm so grateful to like all the people who, threw in with this and helped wake parents up and so on. But I'm going to stop short of getting on board with the goal of saving public school. Like I said, I'm not going to get in their way. I'm not looking to like throw a monkey wrench into them, but I will challenge them, and I will contradict where I think they need to be contradicted. And I will point out flaws in their arguments where I think they need to be pointed out, even when theoretically we're on the same team, right? I mean, if we're both coming at it from being, anti-woke, we're not woke. We don't like this postmodern garbage and critical theory and critical pedagogy coming into the schools. We don't want our kids to be data mined. We don't want our kids privacy violated. We don't want our parental rights violated. We want to have, more autonomy over the medical decisions with regard to our children. We don't want schools to be in loco parentis to the degree they are. So we're all on the same page there, but I want to go all the way. I think you guys should have real choices. And real choice means full parental rights to decide where your education dollars go. They should follow the student. That is my view. So I feel like we need to here's how you guys ever do this more often. You know what's so funny? This is much easier for me than making videos. I Video editing, I suck at it. And I do one take and I don't make scripts and I end up doing the same thing like 4 and 5 times because I make a mess up. And so this is much easier. Um, but I'll keep trying to look over at like questions. So if you have questions, yes, it is good to have options and it's good to have different perspectives. And so, like I said, you will never see me like saying, you guys are wrong to try to save public schools. I'm going to say I'm pessimistic. I don't think it's going to achieve your desired goals, certainly across the board, across the whole country, but it may work better in some areas than others. There might be a state, maybe like Iowa or something, I don't know, where, you could save Iowa schools as Iowa schools or something. I mean, I'm just like pulling something out of a hat, picking a state. I think a place like California, I think you kind of start over. I'm sorry. I've studied it too closely and it's just so messed up that I don't know how you like save it. It just feels like it's being held together with, way too much duct tape at this point. So, I think there comes a point where you just have to say, let's rethink this. Let's start over. And I know it sounds like a Herculean task, but it really isn't when you realize that it's a big task if you look at it as a system that you have to replace. It's not as big a task if you realize that it's about certain specific supports. I want to talk about those. During the live last night that was on with the other mama bears and Gabs was there and so forth, it was mentioned that, kids will starve if we don't have the public schools. There are a lot of kids who only get their meals in the public schools. And I thought about it and I thought to myself, okay, so we have a food distribution problem. If we have hungry children in America, it's not because we have too little food in America. We have ample food to feed everybody. It's that we have a distribution problem. Right now, we're using schools to distribute meals to hungry children who would otherwise not eat. Okay. I think we're smart enough and, creative enough in America to come up with a better way to distribute food so that hungry children can eat without having to build a school around it. We don't say, oh my gosh, people are going hungry. Let's build a school. They don't have to go together. They just are together right now. And then we say, well, people have to work and they don't have affordable childcare. They don't have, school is providing the childcare. Okay, we have a childcare issue. I do not like government providing childcare, but it sounds like we have a childcare distribution problem. See, this is how I approach problems. And I'm not trying to oversimplify it or make it sound like it's just that simple. It's not that simple, but it's also not that complicated. You have people, they have a need, childcare. You have other people who may have a need, employment. Okay. Or perhaps, they're lonely if they're seniors or they're retired or whatever, and they like children. Okay. And you have a bunch of different people. We used to call it community. Remember we used to call it community? Remember when you used to know your neighbors and maybe like the old lady next door would watch some kids or grandma or an aunt or somebody would help out. Okay. Well, we don't have community anymore because for the past at least 50 years, we've centered our so-called, community around the school, but that's not really community. It's kind of a network around a building run by the government where you're on their time schedule, but there's no heart. The skin in the game just isn't there. And so what if instead, especially if you're already okay with using public dollars, I'm personally not, but like if you are, then again, come up with a better way to redistribute the needs and the supplies and the demands around the childcare issue and possibly the childcare and the food issue and so on. And then you say, well, why don't you just build the school by that point? Because the same parents are working, need, some way to educate their kids. Aha, that's where I'm going to stop you. Because I don't think there's a one size fits all for education. I think even the working parent, even the parent who's really strapped for money and is having trouble coming up with healthy meals for their kid, 3 meals a day. I think even they, especially if given, a little bit of help, just a little bit of help to help pick it out or select for some choices, could select what they would like their kid to be learning and how they'd like them to be learning it and so on. And there are just so many choices of, box curriculum, online curriculum, all different things that you could give them that level of choice. And you don't literally need an instructor. You need perhaps tutors. You need adults who are educated around. But if they're already just going to stand in the room and stand over them on Chromebooks, at least let the parents choose what's on the Chromebook, or at least let the parents choose what workbooks they're using. So what I'm talking about is not, dismantle the system and leave people high and dry. I'm saying if you have a public option, address the problems in their order of necessity. People are hungry. That strikes me as job one. Feed people. Like no child should be hungry in America. That strikes me as ridiculous. Okay, so feed them. They need some care. Okay, we got to work with the parents a little bit because remember, it is not the job of the state to parent your children, like to take care of your children. I'm not heartless. I don't lack compassion, but I'm saying you got to work with them a little bit. So maybe it's a give and take kind of a situation. You get some childcare, and then you do it, on the weekends, or you trade off, or we'll cover you here, but you need to do that. Who knows? But that's a second issue. And then the education piece is actually where parents should still have a choice. I don't think that because we have hungry people who need childcare that we suddenly need to be, telling them what they have to learn. That's where the conflict of interest comes in, and that's where parents lose their rights. And that's what I'm trying to prevent. That's what I don't like about public schooling. Because what's going in here, what the kid is doing all day, that's for parents to decide. I wrote a thread about this on Twitter today where I talked about elevating parental rights, and that needs to be the conversation, not homeschooling, parental rights. And what we need to start questioning are these premises that support public school. We have this premise that we all accept that it's like a perfectly normal thing to hand our children off at the age of 6, possibly sooner, to total strangers who are employees of the state, who will then monitor and do everything for our child all day long while we're gone, and we won't know what's going on. And we don't really, not only do not have transparency of what's going on, but if we ask, we're going to be kept at arm's length. And that extends to things like medical decisions now, we find out. And it extends to things like, ideas that are going in their heads that directly challenge the ideas we want them to have, our values from home, our family, respect for the country, respect for each other if they have siblings, and so on. Respect for their friends who might look different or come from different backgrounds. That's all going to be decided by the state. And we accept this as normal. This is completely normal. The other premise that we accept without blinking an eye, apparently, is that it's reliable, and it's more reliable for our lives as adults and as families to let the state decide what our schedule will be, from when we can go to work and when we got to be out of work or have someone else pick up our kid, what time we go to bed, what time we eat dinner, what we do on, from on Monday to Friday. So if we have a day off and it's a Tuesday, too bad, kids in school, but we have to work on Saturday. Bummer. Kids off school, but I can't spend time with my own kid because the state is around the state schedule, not mine. Okay, so we take this, well, that's reliable. Oh, until there's a pandemic and the state decides to close the schools for, like a year. Not very reliable, is it? And open and close and open and close and open and close and up, quarantine, you're home. I don't call that reliable. The most reliable system is the one you create around what works for you. That's reliable. So I don't think it's reliable to rely on the state. We've just seen how capricious they can be. And, we also take it as a given that we don't know what's best for our children in terms of what they should learn. It's like a given. I don't know unless I'm a teacher. I don't know unless I was trained. I don't know unless experts are doing all this for me. And, we're talking about the years from 6 to 18. That's a lot of not knowing. And I don't think many parents have to go, wait a minute. I never agreed to that. I never said I don't know what's best. I want my kids to learn to read and do math. And I want them not just do math. I want them to understand money. I want them to understand, how hard it is to earn the dollar and why they should save it and maybe invest it. And, I actually care about if they're thrifty or, just spend it crazy. I want them to understand debt. I want them to understand how to cook or how to, do their own laundry. I think they should be, clean, and I think they should be polite. And I mean, parents, you have a whole lot of ideas you probably haven't taken inventory about of things you think your kids should know. And you may even think schools are teaching to them that they're not at all. You can graduate high school, be 18 years of age, and be like, what's interest? What? And what? What's a mortgage? What? I don't. Utilities? What are utilities? What do you mean utility? What is that? Oh, it'd be electrical, water. Like, oh, you like pay for that? Yeah, you pay for that. So unless you're growing up with your parents going, turn the lights off, like my kids, or you actually show them the water bill, like my kids have to see, I'm sure parents would like that, but they don't learn that in school. They don't learn in school like what a Ponzi scheme is. And they don't learn that college is one. They don't learn a lot of things in school that you might just sort of assume that, well, if they learn math, they'll know that. Nope. 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 They can go through 13 years of math lessons and come out of school not having the first clue about probability and statistics. So the first time they turn on the news and they go, oh, people are being hunted by the police, they're like, oh my God. And they won't think to look at the statistics and be like, there were only like 14 people last year who were killed by police. I don't know, but there's like 330 million people in America, and that doesn't seem like a lot, really. As far as hunting and stuff, doesn't really fly. Those headlines don't really make sense, but they don't teach that either. In fact, they teach the opposite. They teach whatever the narrative is that's in the news is what's getting taught in the classroom. So you know a lot. You parents know a lot that you are more likely to end up in an argument with your kid about, where you're looking at the news going, can you believe this garbage? And the kid's like, what? This is true. This is totally true. I shared yesterday on Twitter a video that I don't even know why this was recommended to me. It was a YouTube that came in my little recommendations of a little girl. I don't even think she's 10. I'm not even kidding. I don't even think she's 10. She made a YouTube and she wanted to talk about feminism. We need to talk about feminism, she says. She might be 9. And we need to talk about it because boys run everything and boys should not rule the world. Girls should rule the world. Women should rule the world. Everything would be better. And she just went on and on and on, making, insane misstatement after misstatement about women and men and running the world and making things work and breaking things. And she's doing it publicly on YouTube. And I'm thinking, this didn't come out of her head. She didn't wake up one day at that age and go, yes, men rule the world. That idea came from an adult, and probably not her parents either. That probably came from school. I'm giving the parents the benefit of the doubt. But she's off in her room alone on YouTube with a little headset and everything, spouting off all this activist garbage. And she's not even probably in 5th grade. And that's what I'm trying to say is I think most parents know better than that. Unless, of course, they already agree with that junk, in which case you're not sitting and listening to me. If you're sitting and listening to me, I take it on faith that you already pretty much agree with at least like 80% of what I'm putting out there. And you're not the ones crying in your cornflakes today over what happened in Virginia. You're not the one saying, that white supremacy triumphed, even though there's a black lieutenant governor of Virginia. So, I'm talking to the people who are happy today, not the people who are whining on Twitter about what a terrible day of mourning it is and how, obviously this proves that racism is alive and well and all their nonsense. Yeah, the feminist version. It's sad though. She's an adorable little girl, so cute. And I mean, I bet she's just a few lesson plans away from being a thinking, like, yeah, that doesn't make sense kind of person, but nobody's ever presented it to her. So she doesn't know any different. Oh, you show your kids the bills, Alexandra? That's great. I think we should. I absolutely should. Let's see. I'm just seeing what else. Any other questions? Anybody have anything they want to talk about? Hi, Nathaniel. Yes, it is a good day today. I had to eat crow, you guys. I was the one going, nah. I want him to win so badly, but I don't know. I was so sure there'd be shenanigans or something at the 11th hour and we'd go to bed and wake up and things be changed. I don't know. I was holding my breath until McAuliffe conceded. I was like, I don't know. And they were on the live last night. They're like, why are you so negative? I was the only person that said we wouldn't win. And so I had to eat crow today. I was happy to, though. I was very, very, very happy to be wrong. It was a good day. And like I said, what happened in New Jersey is just as important because their curriculum is completely messed up. Their gender curriculum especially is mandated from the top down. The policy in the state, it's literally mandatory that they affirm, immediately affirm and create a separate file. All the student has to do is say, I would like to be known as whatever from any age, from kindergarten on. And it is the policy of the state to affirm. No questions and no notification to the parents. Imagine your 7-year-old is going through something, who knows what, right? I said, my 7-year-old wanted to be a mermaid. That's a fact. I talked to her about it. She goes, yeah, I really did. In fact, she asked for Christmas for one of those mermaid tail things that you use in the pool where you pull it on over your swimsuit and you swim in the pool like a mermaid. She still has it. Yeah, that's how badly she wanted to be a mermaid. So, and they make those things for those kids because they have this little fantasy world, whatever. They know deep down they can't be a mermaid, but they really, really want. I mean, that we're talking the standard in New Jersey is, persistent. When they're persistent about it, you've not seen persistent until you've met my daughter at 7 saying, I want to be a mermaid. I want to be a mermaid. Can I have a mermaid tail? Can I have a mermaid tail? I have to have that mermaid tail. I'm a mermaid. I'm a mermaid. I'm really a mermaid. I don't really have these legs are not, I don't want these legs. I want to be a mermaid. Well, I'm not going to institutionalize the kid. She's not insane. She's 7. So I got her a mermaid tail, let her do her little mermaid thing. And then, we move on our merry way. But if adults other than me are going to say, yes, honey, you are a mermaid. Let's start a file for you. And we're not going to tell mom. We're not going to tell anybody. You're a mermaid. It's all good. What would you like your name to be? Oh, affirm her mermaidness. And let's take you to the doctor and talk about sewing your legs together. I mean, like, that's about what is going on. And that's not okay. That's what they do in New Jersey. So the fact that their gubernatorial race is it over? I don't even know, but it was really, really close. Really close. And there are a lot of people who suspect some shenanigans because overnight some votes were kind of flipping around, but it was still crazy close, which in New Jersey is remarkable. And the Senate president was undone by a guy who didn't even run a campaign. He had a Facebook page. That's it. He's just like, I want to cut taxes and reduce spending. And he won. And it's a beautiful thing. It just the non-politician won in New Jersey in one seat. And I think that's fantastic. So lots of good things to be happy about. I just think that now we need to okay, what is Nathaniel says something about Jersey. What do you got here? Speaking of Jersey, I had 2 friends who recently moved to New Jersey and they weren't allowed to vote because they haven't been able to get IDs from the state because of restrictions. Restrictions? What kind of restrictions? Were they not allowed to get IDs? That was like voter suppression because I know New Jersey doesn't require ID to vote. That's odd. They require ID to vote in New Jersey? That's unusual. I didn't think they did. So what kind of restrictions? Let's see. If they weren't allowed to, they might not have been allowed to register, but even so, that's kind of bizarre. Oh, COVID restrictions. That I believe. We tried to go to the DMV and they're only taking appointments and they have very few appointments and you can't do walk-ins at all. And so if you need to get your driver's license, which would be your ID right here, even in North Carolina, good luck to you. The next appointments, by the way, if you try to make an appointment right now, today, your next appointment will be Christmas. So anybody who needed ID in the state of North Carolina, let's say you just moved here and you've got to drive for your job or whatever, and you don't want to drive on an illegal license or you don't have a license at all, good luck to you. And you certainly can't register to vote, can you? So yeah, that sucks. Let's see. Just heard the principal of a school in my hometown was just attacked by a student is in a hospital. Oh my God. This is happening a lot. By the way, there was a breaking story a couple hours ago here in Charlotte that the 14th gun of the year was found in Charlotte Mecklenburg schools. I'm not smiling with happiness. That's what I do sometimes when I'm shocked. But yeah, I'm not shocked. Actually, 14 guns so far this year. And they had a lockdown. And they had video of a fight and the gun flying across the hallway on the ground. Anyone could have picked it up. Minneapolis voted not to abolish the police. Wow, that's amazing. No, I mean, I would like to think that's a foregone conclusion that they're not completely insane in Minneapolis. Some of the government is, but not the people. Let's see. What is this? Money 4-year-old has a BTC Bitcoin. Oh yeah, so he's talking about the it's not real, but Bitcoin, but we tell him it is. That's fantastic. You're getting your 4-year-old on Bitcoin. I love it. Let's see. We're also cooking up a story. If he holds 10 for a week, he gets another. Oh, that's great. So you're teaching him about, self-control and investment and all that. Very, very good. So moving forward, what I'm going to suggest to parent activists are a couple of things. I'm going to continue to encourage you, if your kids are in the school, to do be visible and be vocal at the very local level, like with the teacher. Know the teacher by name, make appointments to see the teacher, really be up there, as much in person as, as you can, know what's going on in the classroom. Make sure that you go into the school and sign any opt-out form you can from SEL questionnaires or surveys, and make a copy for yourself. I think that No Left Turn in Education might have some templates. There are others, for legal letters there. I think in the school, they have to provide you with an opt-out. I don't know how long it holds for. It might only be for like a given thing, but see if you can craft a letter yourself that says, this is my official opt out of all of them, and I don't want my child involved in any surveying of any kind. And then I'm sorry to say, you have to have the conversation with your child. Please don't omit this part. Do not trust the school to honor it. The only reason you have to do it and get it on file there is so it is on file. And now there's a paper trail. And if your kid comes home one day after attempting to stick up for him or herself, saying, mom or dad, I tried not to, they made me answer these questions and I said I wasn't supposed to, and they made me, and I then sat there and I didn't pick up my pencil and I didn't do it, and they came along and did it for me, or anything like that, you have a lawsuit, big time lawsuit. So this is to start the paper trail of that. Hope you don't have to get to that, but let's make sure your child is protected from this obvious problem. Make sure you sit down with your middle school and teenage kids and let them know that no, lying on the form is not an option. Okay. So they think they're going to be clever. I talked to my kids. I said, what did you guys do when these came around a couple years ago when you were in school? Because they've been doing this for a while. They said, oh, mom, we knew we weren't going to give away real information. So we just made stuff up. I said, the problem with that is you make stuff up, or you put, not answering, not applicable, whatever. Sometimes the teachers will take that as an answer. Now they're treating those non-answers as, oh, we have a little independent thinker here. We have somebody who's one of those domestic terrorist children. Like, they're making assumptions about the children who don't go along, right? They say they're looking for kids who are depressed and stressed out and stuff, but here's what they're calling depressed and stressed out: kids who stick up for themselves. And in fact, if your child is male and they stick up for themselves, it is not unlikely that they will be marked a little mark somewhere that they're potentially dangerous. That they're potentially a problem because they have too much of, their own thing going on. So tell your kids, no, you simply don't do it at all. And you blame me, the parent. Okay, so like they shouldn't take it on themselves, because you don't want the school making assumptions about your kid and putting a mark in the file. Go ahead and make assumptions about the parent. I mean, you guys can handle it. But the last thing you want is your kid behind your back being taken into some counselor's office and talked at for 8 hours, missing all their classes, and possibly even told to take a medication behind your back. Who the hell knows? You just don't want them to say, I signed a form. You're not to fill anything out. If they tell you have to fill anything out, ask to call me. Say you're sick, say it's an emergency, say whatever, give another reason, but do not fill out these forms. You've been opted out of them for the year. So more and more parents, the next hurdle of activism is opting out, just like for everything you legally can. Now, you can't opt out of things that go on in the curriculum. You cannot opt out in New Jersey of the gender curriculum. You can't. It's in language arts, it's in history, it's in science, it's in everything. That's why, of course, I think people should opt out of the school altogether. But if you can't, for whatever reason, then you're going to have to just prepare your kids to deal with this stuff and make sure you are proactively teaching your values and teaching them what is real and what is not real, and talk to them about it. You have to sort of counter parent the parenting they're trying to do, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to replace you. Lynn, thank you so much for the super sticker. I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. So in any case, you have to, what is this one? This, you said, the reason we learn, gosh, it's crazy in US school system, sending prayers and positive vibes to you all. Thank goodness my kids are grown, but I fear for the future of my grandchildren. Yes. As do I. I mean, I have teenagers, but I am very, very concerned. So, like I said, I'm not for saving them. because I think they're gonna double down. I remember 2016. I remember after Trump won, which of course most of us thought was a shock, and my kids go into their charter school the next day, and the flag is at half mast, and my daughter's like, "Who died?" And then the teacher's wearing all black, and people are crying. And they stopped classes, and they had a little room for kids to go if they wanted to cry, like, privately, and they had a teacher in there ready to, like, counsel them and help them. Like, you would have thought that someone died, like some major important figure, the president, like, was like President Kennedy was assassinated or something. No, they were having, like, these almost therapy sessions over an election result. So if you were a person who either didn't care, remember this is in elementary school, if you didn't care what the results were, or didn't, weren't paying much of attention, or you just were fine with it, it was made abundantly clear to you that you were on the outs because everybody else was weeping, teachers included, director of the school included. And they were hugging students and, I know it's going to be okay. We'll get through this together. Can you imagine? So I don't know what's gone on today in schools other than the gun that was found at Hopewell High in Huntersville. But I really have to wonder what the teachers today in Virginia in particular, but anywhere, was given the whining and the wailing and the screaming and everything is racist and the world is ending that I'm seeing on Twitter. If some of them are teachers, actually a lot of them are probably teachers, today must have been an interesting day at school. They're not going to stop, is my point. So we won as far as sending a message to the politicians, but the politicians are still this many steps removed from the teachers. You're still closer to the teachers. You guys are still closer to the teachers. So there's no political solution to this problem. That may impact your taxes and how your tax money is spent and whether you ever get legislation that gives you, control over your education dollars and things like that. But, even Youngkin is not going to, he says he's going to ban critical race theory on his first day. But as I've talked about on this channel, you can't ban ideas from the minds of people. Just like that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to teach ideas out of your head with their critical pedagogy. That doesn't work either. They're putting ideas into kids' heads, but if there were a racist kid in the school, that's not how you get rid of racism. And in fact, what they're doing is actually putting bigoted and racist ideas into kids that would never have otherwise been there, because that's not how it works. We didn't become an anti-racist nation because we were taught to from the outside. Those were values that the country was founded on, and we just didn't live up to for years and years and years. And we were still working on living up to them when this happened. We're not perfect, but we have made so much progress. We had the Civil Rights Act. We had a war to get rid of slavery. Abolition started in 1775, you guys, from before the Declaration was inked. We had anti-racist elements in the country trying to get it banned. The Three-Fifths Compromise was there to prevent the South from having so much power that slavery would be there permanently. People don't want to talk about it. They say that that's not true. It just so happens to be true, and you can go read primary documents that say so. We had abolitionists that signed the damn Declaration and the Constitution. So the true history they claim to want to teach is not even what they're teaching. But we're not going to do the opposite either. We're not going to get these ideas banned from their heads, and politicians aren't going to come in and say, don't think these things. They're going to think them. This is their worldview. So we, the parents, have to take our worldview on parade. We have to go with it, and we have to go out and sell the better ideas and explain to people better why they're better ideas. And that's a little different than saying critical race theory is so scary and terrible. I think we've had that conversation. I think people get there's bad ideas in school. Now we have to move to the next phase of the conversation. First of all, stop even trying to persuade people CRT is in the classroom, because it is. All right. It just is. What you have to start explaining to people is what critical pedagogy is, what critical praxis is, what is happening in the classroom. I've said it before on this channel. I've made a couple of videos about it that you find objectionable. Get down to specifics. You don't need to go to the lesson plan specific, just the core ideas. And you need to say, I don't want my child taught that America is an inherently racist country. And understand there'll be people who disagree with you. There'll be people say, but it is. We're like, okay, well, you're not, you can't talk to that person. Move on. But there'll be a lot more people who say, well, yeah, I guess you're right. It's not really like totally racist, right? That's the person you want to talk to. The person goes, well, I don't see what the problem is. You just want to teach a real history. Yes, so do I. I totally do. I don't want to teach it through a Marxist lens, though. I'm not a Marxist. Are you a Marxist? And they'd say, yes, I'm a Marxist. But okay, well, I'm not. And I don't want my children to be taught that Marxism is awesome because this is America. And if they want Marxism to be awesome, they can go to Venezuela or China or somewhere else. But this is America, and we have a constitution that explicitly says we're equal under the law, and under Marxism, you can't be. And I'm for equality under the law. I don't want anyone to be treated differently because of their race or their sex or their gender or any other factor that is immutable or, even chosen to a degree. We are equal under the law. And I'm for that. 100% for that. You know what else I'm for? I'm 100% for freedom of speech in the classroom, which means that I think that even a conservative kid should be able to speak and not be made fun of by the teacher or by the other kids and not be, sort of preempted with ideas that all Republicans are racist and anybody with conservative ideas is a racist person. And these are racism. And all that stuff that is the opposite of this party is racist. If that's what they're doing, which it is what they're doing, that silences the kid who doesn't agree with that. And you're talking about middle school and above, and they have opinions. They're silenced now. Do you know how much courage it takes when you're in middle school to voice your opinion in class about anything? So now you've got to stand up to like the teacher, the other kids nodding, everybody going along, the news, CNN in the classroom, everything. And you're going to be the one going, Thomas Sowell's pretty cool. No, I don't think so. So that's what you're talking about is, no, I just want to depoliticize the classroom. And again, you run up against people who go, no, I think school is a political place where we want to teach these kids to be activists. Okay, have a nice day. Don't waste your breath. You're not going to convince those people. Those people voted for McAuliffe last night. He still got, 49%, 48, something percent of the vote? It's a lot of people that agree with that garbage or just to know better, but that's still a lot of people. So it's a victory, but you now have to move into the what's the better idea? What are you for? And catch these people. So you don't ever have to have the argument, is CRT there or not there? Who cares? Do you agree that race is the most interesting thing about a person and determines the outcome of their life? If nothing, all other things being equal, and they don't do anything, and you've got a white person and a black person sitting on the couch, who has the advantage? And if they say, oh, absolutely, the white person. Okay, well, I disagree with that. And I don't think that that should be taught in the schools. That's racial essentialism. And the civil rights movement fought against that because it used to be that the person would say that because they were a white supremacist. That's what they used to say. So because we're not white supremacists, we don't buy that at all. We don't buy it. It's like, no, why? Why are you saying they have the advantage that you're saying they're superior? Just breathing in and out. They're sitting there in a better position and they'll say, no, it's the systems and it's this and it's that. Like, okay, so what you're saying is millions of people are superior. Not that, that one person is, but millions of people are complicit in holding on to these things intentionally. And if so, then why? And you have all kinds of things you can list, like how did this happen and how did that occur? Oh, it's advantageous to them. It's advantageous to them. That's advantageous to them. They're going to run out of that excuse after a while. And I wouldn't even bother with that length of a conversation with someone like that. But I'm just telling you how illogical it is. But you still have to have these conversations, not the, yes, it is, CRT is here, let me show it to you. Because they'll still tell you it's not. Or they'll relabel it something else. So until you get to the core principles of what they're teaching the kids, right? And this is true. If it's not there, then what are they complaining about? So they want it both ways. They don't want to teach our kids a true history. They're calling it CRT. And then it has to be there. And it's like, well, what do you mean they're not teaching a true history? What is the true history you want to teach? What is it? You want to teach about Tulsa? You want to teach about, the civil rights movement? You want to teach about Martin Luther King? You want to teach about Frederick Douglass? You want to teach about, you want to teach about Malcolm X? Okay. You want to teach about, yeah, we can do that. What, is there a problem? Because if that's really all you want, we've been doing that for decades. Now, we can add more. If you think there's some books that, speak about people that haven't been covered yet, we can talk about that. But if what you're really saying is we don't want to talk about the true history objectively, like looking back, dates, names, places, contributions, etc. We want to talk about it giving deference to a particular viewpoint. We want to talk about the struggles and the trials and the tribulations and the horrors and the negatives and whatever without any mention at all of the triumphs. And we want to place blame 100% on white people or, some other boogeyman over here when really no blame is necessary. If you think about it, think about even slavery. Who's to blame for slavery? Well, I would say the slave traders, the slave owners, the, people who profited from slavery. As Charles Love would say, okay, everyone in Europe, whoever bought a good from the United States that was made with slave labor. Now we're into the hundreds of millions of people. So how far do you want to take this blame? Is it worthwhile? Is it helpful? You going to go to Europe and start going to every person who ever put on a cotton chemise in France that was the cotton originated in the United States on a plantation? You want to say pay up? I mean, how far do you want to go? Or would it be better to say slavery, chattel slavery is an abomination? We can all agree on that because in the American system, you own your life, not any other person. And that's the lesson, dear student. This happened. People were unenlightened or they had not yet, come around to this point of view. Some people had, some people hadn't. They had economic reasons. They had religious reasons for not doing it. They had ethical reasons for not doing it. They clashed for decades. They finally fought a war. It was over. The people who thought it was a great idea were trounced, taught a lesson. And then some decades later, we finally passed a law saying full equality under the law. Yes, there were lingering problems. Yes, that left a scar. But the beauty of America is we're all working together to heal that scar and to move on with our lives and to make the world a better place each and every individual day for each and every individual person, you included, little boy, little girl, little person. No, we don't teach that. It's all about blame, shame, and all this, which is incredibly unhealthy and pointless. We cannot go back in time and unlock any of those shackles. Can't do it. We just can't. Getting angry isn't going to help a child succeed today. So you can have that conversation with somebody. I mean, you can have whatever conversation you want. I'm just saying strategically, I think we need to be moving into the area of ideas. I think we need to be talking up the ideas that are consistent with liberty and consistent with what we want to see taught in our classrooms. It's not, the jingoistic, America is the best it ever was and perfect. No. But we obviously agreed mutually that the Constitution was a pretty good idea. Every single president, every single senator, congressperson, etc., who gets elected locally, nationally, whatever, puts their hand on a Bible or whatever book they believe in. I think they have a choice now, but they swear to uphold what it says, regardless of their political party. They all do this. We used to take this for granted that even if you were a Democrat, you thought the Constitution was a pretty damn good idea. Now, you might have had differences of opinion on what it allowed you to do while you were in government, and the courts kind of help us figure that out, but it was still a thing that you believed in and agreed with and would teach the kids was essentially good because it's essentially neutral and it has limiting principles that preserve individual liberty regardless of what's going on in a given policy. Like, we're not going to pass policies that violate your individual liberty, except that idea went out the window a long time ago. And it's going to keep going and going and going, regardless of who we elect to be governor, if our kids are taught that that's not even a thing, that equality under law is actually bad. It's racist. That even when you have equality, well, that's not good because equity isn't served. Well, equity is actually really unfair. If you think about it, diversity, equity, inclusion is paradox. Can't have all three. They cancel each other out. So I would say start focusing on those good ideas and start moving away from CRT. And when people try to engage in CRT or people start, but it's something, just ignore it because we know it's there. The election results show that, a plurality certainly of people know what we're talking about, know that it's a brand name for critical pedagogy. I would love to see it get rebranded, but they'll just keep rebranding ahead of us. And we got to move away from these brand names and move towards ideas they can't rebrand. You can't change what individual liberty means. You can't change what, race neutrality means and equality under the law. You can't rebrand that. I wish them the best of luck making it sound bad to have equality under the law. I want them to be forced into the corner of owning up to what they really mean is preferential treatment. But you're never going to get to that conversation. You're never going to force them to admit that what they want is tyranny. If you keep following their trails with their narratives, like, but CRT is not a real thing. Yes, it is. Stop reacting. If this election has taught me anything, is that, reacting may get you some momentum to like win an election, but they're just better at regrouping afterwards. We have slowed down the march of Marxism in America with elections over the years. You'll see it. You'll see little speed bumps. But if you look at the history of critical pedagogy through the universities, it's been like this. In politics, like this. But in terms of the ideas in people's heads, didn't matter if it was Bush, didn't matter who was president, didn't matter. That was kind of irrelevant. We had a Black president for 8 years, and that was probably the time when the, racism is so alive and well got the most funding. If you look at the universities and when people were being pushed to study this crap, Obama was in office. The living, breathing example that we're not a white supremacist nation was there and was like, oh, we got to fund this stuff. That ought to tell you something. That the goal really wasn't abolishing racism. The goal was abolishing the US Constitution. And it still is. So if you want to preserve the US Constitution and your parental rights and your kids' individual rights and so on, and you don't want to become Mark Zuckerberg's wet dream of the, what is it, the metaverse, where we're all sitting there with VR glasses on for the rest of your life as some little cog in the globalist machine. If that's not what you want, then start talking up the ideas that you do support that are really, really hard for any decent person to challenge. Like I said, good luck to them saying, no, I want white people to be discriminated against. Make them say it. Make them say it out loud. We started seeing some today. They're like on Twitter. It's like, and people get called out and they delete their tweets. So I'm just telling you, that's the momentum we have now. I personally think if we seize this moment in the aftermath of these elections to start talking about these good ideas, we're golden. We are golden. So I'm coming up against the hour and I have to go get my daughter at her college class. But I did want to jump on and just give you my thoughts. I hope you found this helpful, useful, strategic, something. There's a lot more we could talk about. I'll see if I can jump on again, maybe on Friday. But thank you all for coming. And thank you all for watching all these many months. And thank you to everybody who has been fighting, alongside me and supporting all the other moms and parents and kids and everybody working to improve education in America. Today is a happy day. So let's go celebrate. Thanks, you guys.